Hello, welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for December 18th. We got an interesting 11-game slate here, and we're going to go over it all. But before we do, come join us at LineStar. It is only $39.99 per month, and it gets you access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS, all the tools. You get it all for all the sports we cover. One low price. Now, let's get into the slate a little bit here. We do have 11 games. Now, we'll start off at point guard. Gonna try and get through this quickly because I also still have the NFL DFS to put out. So, highest owned, Jacob Gillard, Trae Young, and Emmanuel Quickly. Look, Gillard is way too cheap for the spot that he's likely going to be thrust in. Most likely he ends up back in the starting lineup and, plays 24, 28 minutes, something like that, because they're beat up in the guard spot. Now, he's a decent play. The ceiling isn't huge, but for the price, safety, all that, I kind of understand why he is going that high owned. And I'm definitely going to be able to get to a little bit of it. Next, Trae Young. So I do like Trae. I do think he is getting a little bit pricey, though. It is 12-point favorites, and he's been playing extremely well. He's been balling out, but those are all games that stayed relatively close. I don't know if this one stays relatively close, and if it does, it's likely because some Detroit pieces are coming in, so this is a mini correlation spot for me, which also helps kind of cut down on Trae Young's overall ownership as it is, as people are just not as likely to match Young with some Pistons guys. So I do think he's an interesting play. As a solo play, I think he might be going a little high owned, but if you're putting him with some Detroit pieces, I kind of start thinking is a little interesting. Quickly is fine. The one thing is his minutes haven't been there lately, but he is a guy when he gets extra minutes, he can do well. I just don't know if this is a spot that he's going to get extra minutes. So on to FanDuel, the high owned guys. We got Trae Young, Malik Monk, and DeJounte Murray. Murray, I do like as a pivot off Young. Now he is, similarly owned on FanDuel, but it's just he is so much cheaper. Malik Monk is somebody I'm very interested in today. The Wizards aren't great for stopping bench scoring, and Malik Monk is good on that. The other thing is, we talked about it a little bit last week, how his minutes are kind of all over the place. He's been playing more consistently lately, and that definitely raises my eye. He, can get into 40 fantasy point range, and at 6.2K, that is pretty interesting to me. Donovan Mitchell, got to bring him up. No Darius Garland, no Evan Mobley. Pretty much comes down to it being on his back. It isn't the greatest matchups, but the guy can score in a ton of different ways and has big time upside. I would rather go Mitchell than Trae Young. I think there's just more upside in this spot due to the injuries and all of that as well. Jacob Gillard, we talked about a little bit. Like him, don't love him. And let's get over to the matchups here. So point guard matchups, top matchups. Mike Conley, Terry Rozier, who I do like today. SGA I also like. I'm going to be getting to some. And Brunson is just fine. Shooting guard, high owned, Isaiah Joe, Emmanuel Quickly, and Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't know about Joe unless there are some injuries that come up. He has been playing a little bit of minutes here and there, but him being high ownership is kind of funny. I think it's likely just that there's not a ton of really good value right now, and that's just kind of what optimizers are probably spitting out. Manuel Quickly, whatever. Spencer Dinwiddie, I think, is interesting. 7.5K is just starting to get up there a little bit where my hands get a little tied going with him. I do think he needs to back down in price a little bit, but he has been doing pretty good. What is that? 4 50-point games in the last month, plus several 40s. So I guess the 7.5K is warranted. It's just hard for me to bite that bullet. FanDuel, high own, Malik Monk, DeJounte Murray, and Donovan Mitchell. Some pivots that I do like. Vince Williams, I think he's interesting. Played 30 minutes last game. Been 28 to 30 over the last 3 or so. And he should get his work in this matchup at 4.6K. I'm a little interested in it. Grizzlies are just majorly beat up, so they're going to need somebody. Colin Sexton. People are jumping off the bandwagon, and I'm staying on. He's been good for mid-30s. He's only 6.3K, but with the level that he scores fantasy point per minute wise, there is for mid-40s, even 50-point upside here. We just haven't seen it yet in this small 1-week sample size. If ownership's off of him, I am going to go on him. Desmond Bane, similar spot. Dude's just been scoring fantasy points. So, like Dinwiddie, his price has gone up really high, but there's really not many places you can go for a consistent, mid-40s with a 70-point ceiling. So, I definitely am a little interested in Bane, and if he goes off, that's likely the only way the Grizzlies are staying into this game. So definitely a little intrigued there. And Mikal Bridges. I think Bridges has the best matchup for Utah tonight. He's fallen off a little bit lately. He hasn't been quite as good. The minutes are still there, though. So I think it's probably likely more to matchup based than anything else. Dinwiddie's been doing really well. He's fallen off a little bit. That could easily switch back tonight. And I just think he has more upside than Dinwiddie and at lower ownership. So a little bit intrigued there. Into the matchups for shooting guard, Brandon Miller at the top, Terrence Mann, Reddish, Strus, Jordan Poole, all guys that we don't really like. I could see you going to Poole just because he finally had a big game a couple days ago, but that was versus the Pacers. Just don't really like Poole, and I think his price is way too high right now.